So,
I can introduce the tema.
you go.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the sticky part of the color. To introduce this term, I will speak a little bit of an artistic movement, the Impressionism. It's very fast. I just want to introduce the term after talk about this a painter was most responsible for the Impressionism, called Monet Sunrise. He affirmed that for you completely know the object, you need to watch attentively all the impressions of the light and variations of the color. The Impressionism is a movement that transmits feelings of joy and harmony. And the painters in this time, they didn't draw after before painting. They just simply painted without drawing, just color. This is a painting of August Renoir. It's interesting the colors that he chose to express these little girls. The colors are very soft and happy. The painting of Gauguin. Color can perfectly change the way we identify a painting. I mean, the color can change, can transmit emotions and different interpretations. And in this case, the Kandinsky, the colors that he used to make a composition and transmit sound in baskets, the colors are very strong, and the black he used is get the attention of the people. It's very interesting how the color can change, can transmit emotions. Everyone knows this painting, of course. This painting is very expressive, but I think the background in blue transmits calm. Yeah, I think it's harmonious. Yeah. This is a painting of René Magritte. He have as a way of painting very peculiarly because he could put every intention on the center with the colors. This is, I don't know the name of this artist, but it's very interesting the way she or he, I don't know, balance with the colors, with the background and that's it. This is an artist that I like very much. He's an artist Italian, and Cecile. She worked the works of her turning fantasy, and I can imagine a story because the colors that she used are very strong and happy. I really like this is watercolor, and the stain is very nice. This painting that don't transmit the same, but sadness and melancholy, because the color are very cold. I don't know. And this is the painting I made. It is example of I like make in painting watercolor. I try to merge the colors on the face of this guy. and watercolor is have other materials, and we can see the change of the colors. That means maybe this is more army. No, I don't know. Right? So this is a photography because I didn't choose only paintings, and I chose this because the individual are dressed with black coats, dress coat, and have a huge circle in front of him and made a difference. This is, I choose the pop art movement because for they made is mass production for media. So it's interesting. The choose of they choose colors very strong to get the attention of the people. This is a photography with two artists. It's funny. Everyone knows this word, but when you have another color, it seems like another reality, like the hot dog. I don't know. It's strange. We look at this. We think, we know this food, but I don't know. It's like another reality. So I decided to finish this presentation with the image in black, in white, because I think the colors, I will speak in general, the colors make our days happy. It transmits another emotion.
The black screen is, so we will wait when the people change. I click and so Daniel?
Yes.
It's your turn.
Okay. So 2 years ago, a teacher of mine gave me the challenge of doing my self-portrait. And there are 3 very important aspects when you do a self-portrait. And they are the way I perceive myself, the way I want to be depicted, and finally, the person I really am. So whether you follow one of these to represent yourself or not, it's always extremely personal, and normally it's full of meaning and symbols. And I want to start with this example. Rembrandt, the Dutch painter, I hope you all know him. This guy painted a lot of self-portraits, and this was one of his first when he was like 22, 23. And he just painted himself with his shadow, like mysterious. So mysterious, therefore I'm special for some reason. And later on, when he enjoyed a life full of success, he painted himself wearing this. This is not typical of his time, this is from the Renaissance. He's saying, I'm the successor of Raphael and Michelangelo, I'm the master, I'm the artist, I'm the man. But later on, things took a dark twist for him because his wife and kids died and he went bankrupt. It was terrible. So no special focus on what he's wearing. The palette is very reduced. He just he gave special focus to his face, and when you look at his face, it's like wrinkles and a worried look, not really, you know, a proud look at all. So this man was not just depicting himself; he was writing a biography. He was telling us about his life, and that's amazing. And another example of a great narrative is Caravaggio. You know, he painted this very interesting painting called David holding the head of the Goliath. He painted himself as the monster, as the Goliath. He was regretful towards his life decisions, and he said, "Okay, I'm sorry. I understand I did wrong." So the question was, how am I going to tell my story? Because you know, again, this is all about meaning, and my life is very simple. I mean, Corbusier here, he painted himself full of drama and shock and blah, but my life is not that stressful. I could paint myself really straightforward, like Otto Dix, But you know, this gives like an authoritarian kind of feeling, like he must have been a serious guy maybe, but a guy who would take himself in consideration, but it's still a bit honest. While this self-portrait of Egon Schiele it's simplistic in the background and it's more intimate, but I didn't want to be very intimate, you know, I didn't want to expose myself that much. And so I had 2 weeks again, and I was thinking, I inspired myself a little in Van Gogh because he did so many self-portraits. I mean, you could record his life, but I didn't want to record my life because I would spend more time in front of the computer than doing my artworks, and I would spend more time sleeping than I wanted to, so I didn't really want to show that side of me. And this artist here, Lucian Freud, he had this great idea of depicting himself as if he was being interrupted. Like he was doing his normal routine and then, you come here, snapshot, and yeah, it seems quite off, and I like that. I think I should do that too. And then, am I going to paint myself in a beautiful way or not? Frida Kahlo was not very interested in painting herself in a beautiful way. She wanted to share her pain. They were very symbolic, very meaningful again. And I thought, okay, but maybe too much messaging. And then you have, for example, Francis Bacon. He was a twisted guy, I would say, because he had, you know, he was a masochist. He would like to paint himself this way, to say, I want to purify myself by painting my violent feelings here. I also didn't have those, and I wasn't capable of doing what Maria Lastig did here. This woman, we saw at her exhibition recently, she's very brave for painting herself like this. I mean, this is so brutally raw and honest. No, not for me, because I'm still a bit proud, I have to admit. And symbols like Basquiat self-portrait is so different. He is so striking, but you know, too sketchy. I was getting a bit worried. How can I present my flaws, but again not make me like so that flawed? Andy Warhol, he was so simple in his representation that only by changing color you could have like a totally different perspective of his work. And so when you see his color change, I mean, it's like a different person. I wish I was that smart, but I didn't have much time. But I thought, well, how can I send the message that I think that I'm a bit lazy, but I don't want to represent myself in such a bad way. Maybe, you know, be more subtle. I mean, this guy made a really great fusion of his materials, like photograph and face, just amazing idea. And I thought, okay, I want to have an element that's going to connect what I feel, so I decided to paint myself wearing a robe, because, you know, it's intimate. This artist, for example, Mark Quinn, he would do silicone masks when he was an alcoholic, so this represents his addiction. Okay, a bit far for me, but in the end, I decided to do like a really normal face, normal expression, robe. You don't know if I'm about to go to bed, if I'm about to go to the computer, if I'm actually going to do something with my life. But this is how I am every day when you knock at my door, and that's what I wanted to show. Didn't want to be very presumptuous. And, well, I think that's it.
You can be a rapper.
I think now So, my presentation will be about visual literacy, which I made in Kenya for our international partner. It was for maybe 30 minutes, so I hope in 6.5 minutes I will put all these ideas in one. Well, this is a representation of current situation in visual space. So we are occupied tons of images which are around, but there is a question how we can work with this tone of images, how we can guide them, how we can use them. This is a Dietrich piece of art from 1954 called Portable Cabinet. Is one of the first situations when in the visual communication was combined to more images together and create a new context. If we are talking about the context, so I have to mention also the term which calls context, which goes from literature, and the differences between these two terms, we can read it, but in a context we have one word and it depends how we use it, so it changes meanings. In the case of a context, it depends how we use the image, and it's based on what other images are around, so we somehow change the context. So one of the very famous German photographer Wolfgang Tillmans, who worked with the context, is Wolfgang Tillmans. This is a view to his presentation, one of the last one in the České Budějovice in the Czech Republic. This is the view from the exhibition. Wolfgang Tillmans is very famous. This is very precisely prepare his installation. So every size of image, every place is very important for him, and it's not a chance. It's really idea, and he really prepared it also for the specific kind of gallery. I really recommend to visit any of Wolfgang Tillmans. It's really strong and powerful experience. This is another work of two friends of mine from this faculty, Martin Novák and Tomáš Lumbe. He spent 6 months in Turkey, in Istanbul, and he made a work when they photographed the same situation from the same position in the same time, but it was two people, you know, and you can see just two examples that if we photograph the same situation, the same time, from the same place, but the different people, we can get a little bit different result. So again, context. Right now, context in our brain, how we see the reality. Well, Andy Warhol, you mentioned before. Right now, it's connotated to fast. Culture of Use, which was written by Brio. It was this is another piece of art that everybody knows. Please help me. Worker events, and his photographs from project Farm Security Administration. He photographs the situation in 20th century in the Middle Europe, and his work was appropriated by Shelley Levin in 1989. She rephotographed all the picture of worker events photographs in the book and represent them in a large format in the gallery. This is kind of appropriation. So again, she take some content and appropriate it, so she changed the context. And after 20 years of Shelley Levin, there is another work which calls After Shelley Levin, and Michael Mandiberg took Shelley Levin's pictures, scanned them, and published them on the internet network for like an open source. So this is another work with the context. So everybody knows picture of Caspar David Friedrich, I don't know the exact name, and I think, well, let's wait for next screen. Do you know, I think everybody knows Alina Broderus, Finnish photographer, and he appropriates again the Caspar David Friedrich's very famous picture. But also, if we will learn about more about Alina Broderus' work, she more talked about the relationship between the people and current landscape, how we work with our landscape, how we live here. But in the case of Caspar David Friedrich, there is another meaning. So again, so the same, let's say, using the same form or similar form, but a different context. This is another example how we can work with the post-production, post-processing, collage, and again, it is a piece of art of one artist who took form or idea of this art really, but put it into absolutely different context. This is a castle Jezeří, which is a proof of coal mining in the northwest Bohemia. And this is one of my work. It's my bachelor's work. I think someone know it. And I also work with the appropriation and with the context, or with the idea of context. I use 6 authors. There was a magnetic big table with the box, so you can put the images to the box or take it out, and the visitors can create own photo series. So again, you have the one image, and based on how you put it to another, you change the final result, the final context. There was also a second layer which called the similarity in photography. This is a series of not only one photographer, there is 3 different photographers, but as you can see the way how they working is very similar. So it's also another questions which is very close to context. So thank you very much. It's really fast.
It depends on slide.
May I?
Yeah,
It's yours.
I actually made a picture to introduction, but I'm going to start talking because never know. So I want to tell you what is my theme. I choose to talk about the representation of naked bodies in art across the years, but not specific the naked bodies, but more like the way that people deal with it, like the way they feel about naked bodies in art, and I would like to make a comparison between 3 years. So let's start with the beginning. This is from prehistory, as you know. It's called Venus, and it represents brutality, and always represented with robust forms and big curves, as that. So next we have the ancient Greece. Yeah, that it's called discus thrower. I do not even know that, but yeah. And this is for an aesthetic symbol, just to show the perfect body and to connect the mind with the body and to represent beauty, as you might know. So then we have Renaissance, and it only used naked bodies in academic ways, just to study the shape of the body and then to represent it with clothes. The first one who represented naked bodies in final works was Michelangelo. This is Vitruvius from Da Vinci, you know. Michelangelo. That was the first one who painted naked bodies as final works. And this is Adam and Eve that was represented totally naked in the beginning, but with the appearance of Christianism, they have to put the fig leaf, and then, as you might know, always represented with the fig leaf. In 1762, let's wait for the picture. In 1762, Charles III ordered to cover all the pictures that represent naked body, because he thought that was it contains erotic content, and this is to 3 degrees, but then it goes to university and never burned it. Even Queen Victoria ordered to put the fig leaf on David from Michelangelo. This is an old picture. I guess it's a picture, yeah. But nowadays it's not represented with that. But yeah. So in the 20th century, we find more ways to represent naked bodies, like photographies, happenings and performances. And with that, it happened more commercial questions, like it appears the magazines and the televisions And with the beginning of Playboy, this is the first cover, I guess, with Marilyn Monroe. It was just with perfect figures, with perfect bodies, and like just to give pleasure and yeah. So with that representation of naked bodies, feminists start to criticize that, they don't like it. And I can give you the example of Mary Richards that cut this painting, the Venus on the Mirror, as you can see here, the cuts he made. It was on National Gallery in London, and he cuts it with a knife because she thinks that it represents like a woman, like a pleasure object. And then in the 21st century, the naked body is probably supposed to be seen with more naturality, but in 2001 the Secretary of Justice from USA ordered to cover this statue because it shows the breasts, and it was on a conference room, so he didn't like to be seen with the breasts. Yeah. And I would like to say that the Christianism and Jews don't appreciate the representation of naked bodies because it reminds them the slaves' times and the misery of them and censors. I don't know why, but yeah, it makes a little bit sense. So let's talk about nowadays. Nowadays, the representation of naked bodies has a lot to do with criticizes the society thoughts. The artists want to do the critics because it's still controversial, and we still have a lot of cultures that accept the naked bodies in art, but even more than in real life, as you can see in here. If a gallery has like naked bodies in art, why can't we see the works totally naked? Yeah, and this was a performance from Canada. So I'd like to talk about an example I find really interesting. In 2014, Deborah Roberts entered in Orsay Museum and sits in front of this painting. There was a painting L'Origine du Monde from Gustave Combré, and sits on the floor and shows exactly what's in the painting, her vulva. And he has to stop the performance because police came and arrested her, and the museum gave her a jurisdiction. Yeah, it's about the criticizing the property feelings that man has above the woman bodies and the exposition that we have above our own body. So I would like to finish with two images with my that represented naked bodies from my favorite photographer, Ren Han. He's Chinese, and he criticizes his culture because in China it has a more controversial culture. And I would like to say that a word that I wrote, that the art has the function to expose public what still causes some embarrassment. That's it.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the ethic photography, and I want to show you some controversial images in our days. I want to start with one question. Is a picture worth 1,000 words? I want to say that not always, because sometimes some photographers, they needed to say, to explain their project with more than 1,000 words. In our days, we know that our society it's sometimes cruel, and this is really difficult to show it to how the humanity wants to do it. And we have two choices. In the one hand, we can show hard pictures about our reality, show one we don't want to see. But in the other hand, we can show some pictures not too much hard, but sometimes this is not possible. We need to know that the context is really important. For example, in this picture, if we don't know the context, we thought that this man is suicided. But this picture was in 11th of September in New York. He was choosing how to die, burning or fall on the body. This picture was took it for Kevin Carter. He was waiting more than 20 minutes for ticket. He won the Pulitzer Award, but finally he suicided for the pressure of the population, because they was saying all the time that he was waiting for the volunteers doing something. This is another photographer. He claims years later that this place was a rubbish site, and for this reason the volunteers are there, and some children go there to defecate. And this another picture was for Forley, was in 85, and we can see a girl that who was trapped after to eruption of volcano. Was impossible to save them, and the population said to the photographer that he didn't help and this situation, but the reality was impossible, and these pictures raised a lot of money for help the population in this place. And this photographer is always taking hard pictures around the world. For example, this was in Romania, when Romania forbidden the abort, and we can see hard images about children and unhealthy situations. In the next one, this is Garanger. He was taking some women survived to the Algerian war against France, and they were forced to remove their veils, contrary to their culture. And we can see all of the portraits. They are looking really defiant because they were really they didn't want to show it like this. And this is another picture of 11th of September, the bombarding. This was published in the New York Daily News, but the government were disagreed with this picture, and they ordered to remove it with all of the newspapers. And this is really different, but this picture was for the Benetton brand, and it was painted in Italy and France by Vatican, but the artist won in UK won award. This is the same artist, but this picture was censored in UK, but it was accepted in France and Italy too. It's really controversial. They are really different. Okay, this is Bruce. He took this picture of this actress, Brooke Shields, when she was 10 years old, with the permission of her mother and with a legal contract. All of this project, he took the picture, she was naked. Years later, she denounced it to the photographer because when she grew up, she wasn't agree with these pictures. The photographer won, but he was right because he spent a lot of money for the lawyers and for this case. This is another photographer. This is Sturges, and he is specialized in children nudes. He was arrested for the police, accused to pedophilia. The police took it all of her projects, her works, and after a long time, the artistic naturalness won, and they returned all her projects, and it was accepted because they said that it was art, not pedophilia. And I want to finish it with this picture that we can see. This girl was killed for the police, and this picture won one award, Best International New in Sweden. But in the other hand, we have this another picture. It's like behind the scenes, and we can see a roof around the girl, and it's like really controversial because where is the limit about the pictures and this?
I will tell you stories of our region throughout my works. Maybe some of you saw examples of works at the exhibition, so I decided to complete it with another set of images. As you know, I was born here, I'm teaching here, and the works which I created were shown in several institutions since 1990s. This was painting by blood in Manet's gallery in Prague. I was doing hunting scenes and printed them out of lino. This was taken in the neighborhood of Ústí nad Labem, where open coal cast was still running. Here you can see a big mammoth-like digging machine, which looked during sunset as a kind of Noah's Ark. It was dangerous on one side and very poetic. We live in the region which formerly was called Sudetenland. I have a small razor. I inherited it from my grandparents, and it's pretty small. I never saw what was written there. It was only a small silver plate, and just at the moment when I took the photo, I saw it. This is a process of making donuts, a banana. It's telling a story of family, of tradition, how you can search for old recipes, and up to the generations of your fathers and grandfathers prepare the pastry which is same as was done, let's say, 50 or 60 years ago. I used the old traditional recipe, but I also used the bowl, which was once again inherited. You can see, let's say, 5 images in one line. Still, you can guess what's going on. And just at the last one, you can find a kind of reason why I decided to make it. The swastika, which was placed in the plates, in the bowls, which were produced in our region from 1939 until 1945. These are the years which interest me a lot. Once we visited the old bookshop, or the antiquariat, and we bought Faust book by Goethe. I was looking at a certain page of the book where it was clear that the Faust was printed in 1943 in Leipzig. And for me it was a kind of metaphor when you can take whatever you want, but then you have to pay for it. It's a kind of proverb which appears in several cultures, in several civilizations. Here, it's based on a sign which I saw on the streets in Ústí nad Labem, my town. Still, they are residuums of Second World War, and I decided to place the sign in different cities around the world, in countries which somehow participated at both sides of armies during the Second World War. This is the original sign, how it looked at the street close to Emil Fila Gallery, na Nivách. The street is empty, partly abandoned. Sometimes the stories are personal. This one is based on the story which is connected with the birth of my mom, and a miraculous event which happened. with the herbs which saved her life. I'm telling the fact that without such herbs, without the help of people, I wouldn't be here because my mom wouldn't survive as a small kid, as a baby. And without without the baby, I wouldn't born, let's say, 20-something years after. I was focused on herbs which have Sudeten origin written as a part of their botanical species names. I put the names in 3 languages typical for this region, the German, then the Czech and Polish one. Signs combined with Latin, and then I also collected the samples and put them to the list and exhibited all together with the previous drawings. These were taken during the trips around the place here. The diptych, which I called Paradoxes of German Cuisine, are based on the fact that still you can find in the shops somewhere behind the border, let's say in Dresden, where I bought this plate, the signs of time written on some particular everyday used objects, as on the plate. It's compared to the previous cycle which I already shown to you. So DDR was the German Democratic Republic during the communist dictatorship, and then I compared it with the fascist time. This is an installation where I was telling a story of my great aunt. It's called Romance, and it's describing her life is described up to the documents which I found. So I saw how she got married, that the family of her husband had a very good restaurant. Then the Second World War came because her husband was German and she was Czech. They had troubles during the war. Then they had trouble after the war when they had to give their radio, for example, or car for free for public use because of expropriation of their stuff. Then they had to prove that they didn't, that they were Nazis, but it took a time. And I compared with another fictive story of, let's say, dissemination of some ideological background also among or between the members of the families. So that's all. Thank you for me.
So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show pictures from my travels when I finished my army service and I traveled for 13 months. So I have a lot of pictures from traveling, and I chose ones that I like the most and seem different from each other. And it was very close to be only pictures of monkeys. This is in Melbourne, St. Kilda Beach. It's the first place I went to, and most of the time I was traveling by myself. So I was looking at situations, social situations from outside, not as a part of it, but very intrigued. This was the first share house I was living in, and we were 15 people at the house, so to get privacy and smoke, we would go on the roof and sit outside, and we used to sit and do time-lapse of the sunset. So it was a special place for me. This is Jonas. This is in a festival in Melbourne. I went with a friend, and I took mostly pictures of situations happening around, and I just really liked the situation of the 2 children, which seemed a lot like 2 adults. It like symbolizes a relationship. This is in Byron Bay. I just like the composition of the picture, and that everyone is going to one side and the surfboard becomes one of the birds. And this was like a little mascot, Leo. And I did a lot of pictures with the seagulls and him. You will see the next picture. when I placed them, and they were very interested in checking what this is. So this is one of my favorite pictures of the seagulls. It was a very nice day. Okay. This is another point in Byron Bay. I think my favorite point to stay in just symbolizes the perfect life for me, where you have perfect waves, and from this point you can see the place the wave breaks, and also in some of the other pictures from this area you can see dolphins swimming and catching the waves as well. Then I did a travel with my friend Roberta in a van, and we used to go to a lot of like special cliffs and places and take timer pictures of us on the cliff, smoking and just enjoying the view. And this is one of the most special places. This is Central Australia, Uluru. It's exactly in the middle of the desert. There's this mountain. And when we were traveling with the van, we never paid to stay in a campsite. We just go to the campsite, take a shower, go somewhere else in the desert, and find the best spots. And this was one of the most beautiful nights. After I was working in Central Australia in the desert in a supermarket for 2 months to save money, and I would walk 20 minutes in the bush to go to the supermarket from where I live, and I would see kangaroos and a lot of like fresh kangaroo footsteps on the way. Then I saved money, I went to Cairns, to the Great Barrier Reef, which is a world wonder. And because I don't have a diving stars, most of my diving I did with snorkeling by myself, not with a group. And I actually saw a lot more animals than the actual divers. None of them saw the shark, and I was following the shark for a pretty long time. And also the turtle gave me a tour of the reef, which was nice.
And you were lucky that it was not the last time you saw it.
But it's not a shark that attacks, it's a reef shark. Then I worked some more, and then I traveled to Bali, which is maybe my favorite place in the world, because the culture is really special. And this is a traditional Balinese dance made by children in this situation. And this is the monkey forest in Bali. I was living really behind the monkey forest, and I was just in love with the monkeys and how they live. I wanted to be a monkey. And I think they were like the best subjects to photograph because they look in your eyes and they do really beautiful things. I had so many pictures of the monkeys. And I really like this situation of the 2 men monkeys taking care of the woman, which is like taking this as very obvious. And they're just super cute. So, this monkey is in Mount Watu, which is a volcano. I did a sunrise walk up the mountain in the dark to see Mount Agung, which is on the other side. And I just liked the way he was sitting in the sunrise and meditating and just enjoying the moment. After Australia, I went to New Zealand, and this is the only picture I put from New Zealand because there are just so many pictures that I said, okay, I'm going to choose only one, because it's just so many different kind of landscapes and views. And from New Zealand, I went to India, which they have different kind of monkeys, and these are very evil monkeys. They steal from people everything. And this was in Elephant Temple in Hampi, which is in like a small mountain in India. And on the way back from that place, I got this picture, which is a very typical picture that people take in India. But I really liked it. The family situation in the van and how all the colors come together. But it's still like very sad. The color compromises the sadness. This is in Rajasthan, in the exit of one of the temples. And I don't know, I like this composition and the way the man is just taking his life as accepting the situation. And on a nicer notice, from Pushka, the honeycomb. And it's just little bits from my travels, but I think you could feel like 13 months was many different experiences. Thank you.
Well, first I want to say that my name is not Botella, it's Botella with one D. But yeah, I would like to speak about the direction of photography of films, because I like films and I think that a film is really different with different kind of direction of photography. And I will speak about three directors of photography that they are really different between them. And the first one that I want to speak of is Emanuel Lubezki. He won 3 Oscars, and this is my favorite. And the first film that I want to speak of is The Tree of Life. I know that he didn't win Oscar by this film, but it's in this film you can see one of his characteristics, that is that he liked to work with natural light, and in this film you can see how he works. And one curiosity of this film is that they were recording this film with 3 different houses, just for could record the film in different times of the day, trying to see it's the same hour, and they were like near to the windows just for work with natural light. The second film that I want to speak of is Birdman. A crazy film for a director of photography, because I don't know if you have seen it, but in this film there is no cuts. I mean, it's a sequence shot, and this is one of the characteristics of him, and when he realized that he had to do it in one shot, he was like, are you crazy? I mean, when he was speaking with the director, but he did it, and I mean, for me it's like crazy that one person can do that. And also the focus I think I want to say that the focus in this film is like the deep is small, and try to work the focus person. It's like then other film that I want to speak is Gravity. As you know, as I said, Emanuel Lubezki liked to work with natural light. So imagine a person trying to simulate natural light in a green essence. So it was a difficult work for him. And for simulate this kind of light, the actors were in a box light, and trying to simulate that they are in the space. And he won Oscar by this film, and also for Birdman. And the last film that I want to speak is The Revenant, who also won Oscar by this film. And in this film he wanted to just work with the light of the sun and the fire. And it's hard work for him. The next one that I want to speak is Vittorio Storaro. Is really different from Emanuel Lubezki, because he works with color lights. He wants to work with psychology of colors, and you can see it in all the movies because they are really colorful. The first one that he won an Oscar is The Last Emperor. Here you can see how he uses the colors, because at the beginning it was green, like for simulating the happiness of the main actor. Then he changed to green just because he is in prison, and then he changes to natural lights and so on. And yes, here you can see he also likes to work with warm colors. And the next film is Apocalypse Now. I don't know if you have seen it. And here you can see he also like colors, and he also liked to work with the colors of the sunset. And at night, here you can't see it, but at night he also like to work with the moon light and the blue things. But yeah, here you can see very famous scene with sunset colors. The next one is Dick Tracy, that he was working here with there's a lot of color, and he was trying to illuminate it with the opposite colors with the same as here you can see the red and green. And I have to say that he also won an Oscar for reds that I didn't put here. And the last one I want to speak of is Gordon Willis. He didn't win an Oscar by his movies. He just won an honorific Oscar by all his work. And also, this is really different from the others. He works with shadows and also big contracts, but not all the films are like this. Shadows are also there is a big contrast between the interior and outside, because outside is really white. And yeah, he also adapts to the director, because really some directors want different things. And the last film of him is Manhattan. This film is in black and white, and also here you can see how he works with contrast and shadows and things. Well, that's all that I have to say. I mean, you have seen some 3 different kind of directors, and I think that is really important because it changes how it looks the film. And Orson Welles, when he made Citizen Kane, someone asked him how you could do a really good film with no experience, and he said, because I choose the good director.